incredibly, just 3 races remain in Monster Energy AMA Supercross in 2025. It might be just as incredible that this deep into the championship, all the titles are still very much up for grabs. In the 450 class, heading into this weekend's event in Pittsburgh, Chase Sexton has cut Cooper Webb's lead down to just 9 points. And we've run through this math before. There is a 3-point differential between a win and a second-place finish at each individual race. If Sexton just keeps on winning through the end of the year, at worst, he would be tied with Webb for the point lead, and he would win the championship on a tiebreaker. But there are, of course, many variables in racing, and any type of result for either rider is far, far from guaranteed. So, let's get into the weekend preview. I'm Sarah Whitmore-Smage, and later we'll have the injury report brought to you by Leatt and a track report from Jason Thomas. As for racing in Pittsburgh, there have only been 2 Supercross races ever held in this city before, and those were in the old Three Rivers Stadium, which is long gone. The new building is called Acrisure Stadium, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you have not been to downtown Pittsburgh in a long time, well, you'll really like this one. Great atmosphere, great part of town. And when this race was announced late last year, ticket sales skyrocketed immediately. There are a lot of fans in this part of the country that can't wait to go here. Even though there is a race in Pennsylvania just 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia, the 2 cities are about 5 hours apart. So there will be a different group of fans here who have been salivating over getting a race this close to home. And they'll have something to cheer for in the 250 East Division as well, because Pennsylvania's own Seth Hammaker is now the sole points leader in 250 East. Okay, so he's closer to the Philadelphia side of the state, but he's still more local than title rivals RJ Hampshire and Tom Vialle. Hammaker is 3 points ahead of Hampshire and 7 ahead of Vialle. One other piece of information to note is that this weekend marks a return to nighttime racing. The gates will drop at 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Saturday, after the last 2 races took place during the day. Now, let's get a track report from Jason Thomas.
Welcome to Pittsburgh for round 15 of Monster Energy Supercross. And this week's track, it's going to be interesting. Weather will once again be a variable, so everything I'm about to say is weather dependent, but we do have a pretty technical racetrack this weekend. We have what should be the longest start of the year. And what does that mean in practical terms? Well, gate position will not be as critical. You're going to be able to line up wherever you really like on the gate and still have a relatively good chance of getting a good start. That opens up the outside gates. So when you think about a rider like Justin Cooper, who has no problem swinging to the outside for that type of gate pick, look for him to come out near the front because he'll drive it in really deep and come out with a good start. And I think riders can move around a little bit. You don't have to all bunch up on the inside where you're going to make a lot of contact and be elbowing each other for position. On the racetrack itself, there are a few technical sections. We'll see what the weather has to say about riders putting those together, but they could go big in a few sections, putting some quads together if they're so inclined. The whoops this weekend, they were such a critical part of the race last weekend in East Rutherford, and they could set up that way again this week. If you look at the setup before, there are 5 jumps. Now, riders will either go 3-2 or 2-3 into that section. It's almost identical to Tampa if you go back and look at that track map. And who did that favor? It favored riders that could blitz the whoops well. And you could even say that Chase Sexton wasn't on his game in the whoops on that particular weekend. Malcolm Stewart made the most of it and went on to win. This weekend, though, I expect the dirt to be a lot softer. And we saw how effective Chase Sexton was at blitzing whoops in those conditions. So I would expect him to have a very similar bike setup, and that should favor him. Now the question will be for Cooper Webb. Does he stick with the jumping? Does he try to blitz to match Chase Sexton? Or is he stuck in that purgatory area he was last week where he's not sure really what to do? The other one notable thing I wanted to mention, there is an options section right after the whoops. Watch for riders to be testing that all morning long, trying to figure out the inside becomes the outside and vice versa. The one thing I did notice, though, if you do jump the whoops, I think going to the inside first will be the ideal setup because you'll be going slower into that inside line, and riders are going to want to blitz with speed. They're probably going to want to carry that speed to the outside line in the first part of the corner, which will then set them up to the inside on the exit. So just because one is faster at the beginning doesn't mean it will not be faster at the end. So that's it for Pittsburgh. Let's just pray for no rain.
Thank you, JT. Now, let's get into the weekly injury report brought to you by Leatt. First, we must mention Jerry Robin had a huge crash in East Rutherford last weekend during practice and sustained fractures to his T5 and T6 vertebrae and also fractured several ribs. At this time, Robin is paralyzed essentially from the belly button down and facing a tough road ahead. To help him out, please go to roadtorecovery.com and you'll find the athlete cause for Jerry Robin there. We wish him the best in what is the scariest moment that everyone hopes to never hear about when it comes to dirt bike racing. As for the rest of the 450 class, most of these stories are already known. Jason Anderson, Hunter and Jet Lawrence, Jorge Prado, they're all out for Supercross with injuries. There is a chance that Eli Tomac might return for the end of Supercross, but more than likely you'll see him at the beginning of Pro Motocross. Ken Roxon is dealing with multiple injuries, but he's still racing on the weekends. That's the extent of the 450 injury list. As for 250 East, Max Anstey is out with a broken leg. Concussion for Dax Bennick, he's out. Pierce Brown is out after breaking his T5 vertebrae at the opener in Tampa. And Casey Cochran is out with a leg injury. Chance Hymas crashed out of the New Jersey main event, but he will be racing this weekend in Pittsburgh. Maddie Jorgensen is out with a collarbone injury. Levi Kitchen is out with a back injury, but he is back on the bike. Derek Leatherman came up short on a triple in New Jersey and injured his wrists. He needs surgery, so he is out for the season. Gage Linville, after that great ride and a podium in Foxborough, is out for the remainder of Supercross after a bad crash in Philadelphia that left him with a concussion, broken ribs, bruised lung and shoulder, and a fracture in his back. Lorenzo Locurcio is out with a broken ankle. Cameron McAdoo out with ACL surgery. Carson Mumford has ankle and leg problems. Still not sure of his status for Pittsburgh. He's trying to get back to 100%. Hardy Munoz hurt his knee in New Jersey, but he's still hoping to race this weekend. Marcus Phelps suffered a concussion during qualifying in New Jersey. His team says that they haven't made a decision on racing in Pittsburgh, but considering how long he was knocked out there, it seems unlikely he will race. Nick Romano's been dealing with a knee injury all season, sustained in Tampa, and he is out for the rest of Supercross. Chad Schultz, we've mentioned this the last few weeks. Go to roadtorecovery.com to help him out. He also injured his back and has lost sensory and motor control. And finally, Jalik Swoll is out with a torn Achilles. That's the injury report for Pittsburgh. Should be a huge crowd, rain or shine this weekend. We actually don't know exactly what the weather will turn out like when the gate drops, but either way, this area is fired up to have Supercross back for the first time in over 40 years. We'll see you Saturday.